and it is Friday, the 10th of April, and welcome to Day Drinking with Wes Hagen. Here we go, finishing up I guess kind of like the official full second week of the show. Feeling very excited about that, and looking forward to everybody. Jolie's in first. She gets the prize. Well done. And I hope we're all enjoying ourselves day drinking as we continue this adventure. I wanted to share a moment of excitement. Welcome, Megan. I guess it was actually yesterday. I could say it was today, but it wasn't. I forgot. I was going to say this on the show yesterday. I actually had a moment yesterday morning that was absolutely astounding. And that was I went into the guest bathroom as my wife had guaranteed me, we have plenty of toilet paper. I kind of felt like we were down to 3 or 4 rolls, so I wanted to go see how much was in the guest bedroom. Turns out there was a full Charmin 24-pack under the sink. And, it should not feel like finding a bottle of First Growth champagne in your cellar that you forgot about, finding, $10 worth of toilet paper. What's up, Brandon? Brandon is actually, I don't know if you're part of the Dalmore thing, but at 6 o'clock right after this, Brandon sent me this cool thing that the Dalmore Scotch is doing. So if you love Scotch, if you love brown liquor, do think about jumping in and welcome Marilyn, Ian, and Phil. We're getting some people jumping on. And Minnesota, excellent. You know me, I love everything about Minnesota except Senator Volstead, 1919. We'll talk about that, I'm sure. Dirk, welcome. Tom O'Higgins, the great-great-great-grandson of the liberator of Chile, is in the house. Welcome. It's good to see you. And John's back. Peter's back. And Lisa, remind me what part of Minnesota you're in. I was just up at the Grandview Lodge for Divine, Minnesota. It was minus 17 degrees. I was looking for my car, and I was reminded that if I didn't find it, my lungs were going to freeze. They obviously saw the long hair and knew that I was from California. Oh, and happy Friday to you guys as well. It's Day Drinking with Wes Hagen. So excited you guys could all join. It is Friday. Doesn't quite mean as much as it used to, or maybe it does. What I find is I'm really enjoying being at home, but I'm too busy doing not only everything I normally do at J.Wilkes, really pivoting, and this is a good opportunity to talk a little bit about what's happening in the wine industry right now. But we're taking a real strong pivot from working with distributors, focusing on premise and off premise restaurants, wine bars, on premise, off premise wine stores, big box stores, those chain areas and such. And those places have kind of, to a certain extent, sort of petered out a little bit as far as their ordering and keeping the purchase orders coming. So we're really pivoting and taking a really strong focus on direct to consumer. And this is really important because you guys have done a really good job and you've helped us increase our DTC sales across Miller Family Wine Company absolutely spectacularly. I will mention this at the beginning and at the end, 5 o'clock and right before we finish up today. But I did confirm that 1 cent shipping and 50% off Ballard Lane, Barrel Burner, and Smashberry extends to next Wednesday, the 15th, until midnight. So if you or your friends are interested in getting another case of that delicious Smashberry Rosé, or a little bit of Barrel Burner Chardonnay, or the Ballard Lane Pinot Noir, Sauvignon Blanc, Zinfandel, Cabernet, Chardonnay, whatever, those wines are $7.50 a bottle until Wednesday at midnight. So do consider telling your friends. I'm hoping a number of you have received your wine, you're tasting it, and you're finding, for a sub $10 bottle of wine, it definitely punches harder than its weight class. Those wines, I think, I'm very proud to show them, and you guys have been amazingly supportive. So thank you for buying wine. Thank you for drinking wine. Otherwise, I would have to be teaching high school via computer and trying to do lesson plans like this 6 hours a day. I've really actually been enjoying the calendaring of this whole thing, like putting together a show, because I've always wanted to do a wine show. I mean, my personality seems, if I had perfect teeth, I would already have my own show. But this is really what we're kind of thinking about is content, how to get the content to funnel people into an important culture of a wine club, and how that wine club And so part of this was my boss saying, why don't you do shows? And every night at the end of the show, say, hey, come and join the wine club. My thought was, kind of like the first rule of wine clubs, you don't talk about wine club. It seems everyone talks about wine club, and now everybody is going to talk twice as much about wine club because DTC is really the way of things. And JG and Beth, welcome. If you guys haven't been here before, I will tell you, those of you who are on the Wes Hagen Facebook page, and you can tell because you will see more light on my left side of my face because of the camera. You are on my phone. You are on my laptop. You at J.Wilkes Wines Santa Barbara Facebook page are going to get a little better quality, and you're going to get a little better audio quality, and it's not going to drop out as much. Although I have to say, welcome, Victoria, and welcome, Stacy. It's nice to have you. I hope everything is going well. Stacy's a restaurateur in Lompoc, and we know how difficult that can be right now. Fortunately, she makes pizza, and I'm guessing that pizza delivery is still probably still hopping along. Anytime you guys want to ask a question, let me know what you're doing. Tell me what you're drinking. Tell me where you are. Tell me what you want to hear, what you want to learn. We always have a set show, and then I'm always on like 10, 15 minutes early. Then we start right at 5, and then I stay on a little bit later answering questions and just, basically talking about whatever you guys want to talk about and or whatever I want to talk about. So Joseph, welcome. Dominic, welcome. Christy is back. And Michelle is back, and Eddie is back. Awesome. Yes, good. Joseph likes the wine, and it's spectacular value. Joseph actually made my banner for Facebook, and he is a specialist in all things digital media. So if you need anything or have any questions about digital media or you need some help, send Joseph Benton over at the J.Wilkes Wine Santa Barbara Facebook Live a little something. So that's awesome. Yes, thank you, Michelle. Amazing for the price. I think they're good or great for twice the price. I always say that we do have great priced wines, and it just so happens now we're all in an amazing place to buy wines at great discounts because, of course, a lot of wineries are burying their heads right now and just saying, hey, Bobby and Philippe, welcome. Yes, Kurkowski. Yes. So, Andrew, I would love to know if you're at home, because I walked by your house today. I was about to throw a rock at a window. We've been completely socially isolating. We have not been socializing with anybody, not been playing golf with anybody, not been going to the park with anybody. We try to cross the street when we see someone walking down the same sidewalk. So we're being extraordinarily careful, but I'd like to know if you are back from where I guess it was, was it Wisconsin? Was it Wyoming? Let me know if you're back from Wyoming. I'd love to know that. And so we got Ian drinking some Gold Star Purple Haze Red Blend. Purple Haze. Hey, it's 4:10, 10 to go. Here we go. And we've got, and Michelle is drinking some, thank you. Michelle said that the wine is great at twice the price. Thank you, because that's its normal price. If you use the coupon code, the promo code DD50, DD50, no spaces, capital D, I think it works anyway, but capital D is the way it's supposed to work. DD50, that is going to give you a 50% discount and 1 cent shipping per case on Ballard Lane, Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Zinfandel, Cabernet, Barrel Burner Chardonnay, and Cabernet. And then also the Smashberry Rosé and the Smashberry Red. My favorites, if I had to choose 3, I would definitely say number 1 would probably be the Smashberry Rosé, just released, kind of like that kind of Jolly Rancher, kind of like watermelon, bright, super dry, super just, I love rosé. I could drink rosé all the time. So again, welcome. We've got about 5 minutes before we launch in. What the heck? Okay, you should have, she just got home from the Wyoming cabin. Nice, beautiful. Well, welcome home. Nice to have you back. Hopefully we'll get over this soon so we can all get back to the disc golf course and throw some Frisbees at chains. Betty, welcome. So nice to have you. And if you don't know, or you haven't tuned in the last 2 days, we changed the format just a little bit to make it easier for you and to easier for our company to separate these videos into meaningful bits. And that is this: at exactly 5 o'clock, I will start talking about the one wine that we're tasting. We taste that wine and have sort of a master class on the varietal or the varietal composition. So if we're tasting Pinot Noir, we'll spend maybe 15, 20 minutes talking about the wine. and then talking a little bit about where Pinot Noir comes from, where it's grown, and how the place where it's grown influences the flavor, specifically focusing on the Santa Maria Valley, Santa Rita Hills, Paso Robles Highlands district, and wherever the hell you want me to talk about. So that's going to be really, really important. That's awesome. Cool. Remote learning is hard. Well, remote learning is just weird because humans want to be around other humans. And I've been incredibly lucky to be, sort of quarantined or sparkling isolated with my wonderful wife, Chanda. And she's being very patient with me because I drank too much coffee and I'm too intense. And sometimes I'm not the easiest person to be around, but I have to thank her for not only being my producer, but also helping out. So, hi, baby. Love you. She's smiling. And if you haven't seen, my wife cut her hair sort of short and dyed it red. Looks awesome. I'm very, very happy with it. Awesome. Let's see. A gin and tonic. Yes, going straight to the quinine and zinc. The new snake oil. It's almost like, you want to do, and I'll admit that my wife and I decided we're going to do a gin and tonic, sort of British expeditionary style. It's a delicious drink. It's a wonderful way to relax after a day. And if quinine has any positive impact, I understand that the quinine levels in modern tonic are almost zero. Greg McDonald, there's another one of my golfing friends. Greg was the assistant tasting room manager up at, I guess it was Justin, and did a hell of a good job. Greg's a great disc golfer, throws a Frisbee like 400 plus feet. If I just said 400, he'd probably say 415 at least. But if you can throw a Frisbee that far, you're one of my heroes. Greg was one of my favorite people to play disc golf with. And I'm so glad that he came online. So welcome, Greg. Greg, do let me know privately how your ongoing sort of journey of reinventing yourself professionally is going, because I'd like to know how the new job search is going. I believe that you went off to start something else. It's good to see you, buddy. Awesome. So yeah, a gin and tonic obviously is not only delicious, but even if it's a placebo effect, the placebo effect is actually really real. And our attitude, if we believe we're healthy, if we feel healthy, if we're looking healthy, I'm not trying to sell you snake oil, but relaxing every night with a couple, with a drink or two, having a gin and tonic, and just in case an anti-malarial, sort of by sympathetic magic, has any impact on our ability to stave off disease, hey, sounds like fun. Yes, welcome. Oh, good. You got back from the inland areas of I think like Fresno or Bakersfield or something like that. I was just up in Baco for a while too. Actually, the last event I did before the quarantine was there in Bakersfield at Seven Oaks Country Club, which was really fun. And I understand Bakersfield has a very active disc golf scene with something like 9 courses. So that's awesome. All right. 1 minute remaining. So what are we talking about tonight? So we're talking about, now you'll notice if you're on the J.Wilkes Wines Santa Barbara Facebook page, this bottle will be centered and it will look correct. If you're on the Wes Hagen Facebook page, I encourage you to go over to the J.Wilkes Wines Santa Barbara Facebook page because it's a better camera. I'm actually double boxing, double cameraing this whole thing. So you'll notice that this is backwards because I don't have the premium quality of a professional Facebook page. 2017 Lagrein. So we're talking about Lagrein today. I guarantee this is the only national Facebook Live wine show that's talking about Lagrein today. So not only are we going to taste this delicious Lagrein, and by the way, it's 5 o'clock. So welcome to Day Drinking with Wes Hagen. We're talking about Lagrein today, and we're talking about wine service. So I'm going to try to mix it up a little bit. Fridays are supposed to be sort of in the business, but I know that a lot of you aren't in the business, but I think knowing about wine service and wine as if you are in the business might be helpful. I'm not going to get much into how to make tips and how to walk up to a table, and I might talk a little bit about the Sullivan nod, because I always find that to be very interesting. And it's part of and if you don't know, if you work at a restaurant or worked at a restaurant, or you own a restaurant or you're waiting, realize that if you serve any of our wines, I will come in and teach your staff how to serve wine, how to increase wine sales, how to talk about wine, how to pronounce the wines on the list, and basically tell them that if they do a really good job, they can expect about a $20,000 a year increase in their tips. So that's something that we'll talk about a little bit, but we're mainly going to talk about proper wine temperature. Does the glass matter? Talk a little bit about just the ways wine is served. And then we're going to talk about, does it matter at all? Should we just open wine, put it in tumblers, and go play bocce? Or is the presentation of wine socially very important to the ritual? And how important is ritual in the consumption of wine? So we got a lot to get to, so let's do it. Let's do it. It's Day Drinking with Wes Hagen. So I do not answer questions or welcome people during the first 15 minutes when we talk about the wine. And then I'll take a little bit of a time in between when I talk about the wine and I talk about our Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We have a subject today, wine service. Tuesdays and Thursdays, wine only, slightly shorter show. So again, I cut this capsule under the flange because I keep changing every day. It's just kind of my go-to. The way that I do it is I normally cut under the flange because it's safer. I don't cut myself as much. But as I get better and better, and that's because I'm only a level 2 WSET. If I was level 3 or if I was Quarter Master Sommeliers Advanced, I would certainly know how to properly cut a capsule. I do cut them pretty well, but I do tend to cut them under. And I've been told that most really great sommeliers believe that it should be cut at the top. All right, let's open the bottle. That's the most important thing. Let's get whatever closure, and we call them closures. So a closure would include a screw cap. A closure would include a fake cork. Closure would include a diem cork, which is real cork put together with a food grade polymer after a specific proprietary process that removes all the potential cork taint from this cork. So they break the cork down, they shred it, they put it in a hyperbaric chamber, it goes through a process, they slightly toast it, and then they put it together with a food grade polymer. So is it a natural cork? Yes, but it is little tiny pieces of natural cork put into a scientific process to guarantee it is absolutely neutral and will not affect the flavor of the wine. We'll never put TCA or cork taint into a wine. And they're not inexpensive. They're about the same price as natural cork. But if you want to stick with the natural cork and not worry about weird bottle variation due to corkiness or TCA under threshold, I think the Diem cork, DIAM, which is actually owned by Gallo. Say what you will about Gallo, they really, for the price point, don't make bad wine, and they don't suffer fools, and they don't lose money. So I really think this Diem technology is absolutely wonderful. You know what I just realized? I don't have a glass. I'll be back in 10 seconds and sing a song for you while I'm gone. No, I won't put you through that. Yay. I usually actually polish the glasses. Ooh, I'm on a stool. I'm on a drummer's stool, actually. I usually polish the glasses before this, but yeah, this one might be just a little dingy. All right, let's do this. So Lagrein, my goodness, where is this wine from? This wine, Lagrein, is actually, the vineyard is by far maybe 90%, maybe not 90%, but probably damn close to 90% of all of the Lagrein in the United States is grown by the Miller family. There are 34 acres at French Camp of Lagrein, and we're actually planting more because we're crazy. So if you've ever had a Whitcraft Lagrein or any of the local Lagrein, I think McCore makes one. All the Lagreins generally that are coming out of the Central Coast are generally coming out of French Camp Vineyard, which is one of the 3 vineyards owned by the Miller family. So we've got Bien Nacido, Solomon Hills, Bien Nacido 900 acres, Solomon Hills 100 acres, and French Camp, which is 1,400 acres. That's not the property. That's how many acres are planted to vines. So the Miller family is 2,400 acres of vines under cultivation. They've been growing fruit and in agriculture in California since 1871, 6th generations. And the Lagrein represents the lion's share of all the Lagrein basically in the United States. I just was talking to Nita Mittal, and really obviously love Nita. She was here last night. She may stop in today. She was telling me there's a few new plantings of Lagrein, just a couple acres here, a couple acres there in Paso. But I'm just going ahead and saying, according to sort of the data I could find online, that there are 34, in 2017, there were 34 acres of Lagrein in California. And it just so happens, I know we have 34 acres of Lagrein at French Camp. So it's pretty easy to fill in the gaps and figure out how that works. So we're going to talk first about the wine, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the varietal. it's going to maybe it'd be better even to put the two together, because a lot of people don't know really much about Lagrein. If we were tasting Pinot Noir, I think we could jump right in and talk about flavors and aromas and bouquet. Remember, aroma represents what fermentation provides, and bouquet is what aging the wine provides. So fresh fruit, bright raspberry, that's aroma. Cigar box, oaky flavors, malolactic flavors, butteriness, I would say nuttiness, smokiness are generally aroma, or I can't even say, or bouquet, that basically would represent how the wine smells as it's slowly going through entropy. So aroma is what happens when the wine is becoming alive, and bouquet is what's happening when the wine is dying. Easy to remember, because what's a bouquet, right? A bouquet is what humans do. We cut a bunch of flowers, we put them in our house, and we watch and smell them die. So the aroma of entropy is bouquet, and the aroma of liveliness and fermentation is what we call aroma in wine. And those two are generally separated, but generally when people talk about them, they use them interchangeably. And it's like one of my pet peeves, but it doesn't bother me that much because I know most people don't know. All right, day drinking with Wes Hagen, and we are not drinking. So I need to, first of all, toast all of you wonderful people, toast all of our amazing patience, our amazing compassion, because I know all my people are taking care of their neighbors. They're making sure everyone has what they need. They're calling people that don't have anyone to spend this sort of sequestering / quarantining / sparkling isolation with. So it's really, really damn important right now to make sure that we're all humanists. And that means we want to leave the planet a better place when we die. It's just like that. We know for a fact that when we reach out to someone, they feel better. And when people reach out to us, we feel better. And when our phone rings, it's funny because since this sort of quarantine happened, it's like when the phone rings, I actually feel a little more excited. It's like, ooh, who's come to visit me on the phone right now? I'm breaking my rule. I'm not talking about Lagrein. Welcome to Wes Hagen ADD Theater. You have to sometimes follow me on my crazy journeys of brain. I will get to Lagrein, and we're starting right now. So Lagrein is a red, obviously dark red tannic varietal that is grown almost exclusively in the Alto Adige, Trento, Trentino, basically Sub-Tyrol, central northern Italy. About half the country is on the border of Switzerland, and half of the country is on the border of the grand country of Liechtenstein. I can honestly say I've been to Liechtenstein. I spent the night in Liechtenstein when I was 15 years old, taking a trip through Europe with my parents. So thank you, Dawn. Thank you, Kathy Hagen, for taking me to Liechtenstein. So I know how to pronounce it, and I know how beautiful and amazingly small and cute the country is. So this is up basically between the Dolomites, the Dolomite Mountains, and the southern slopes of the Alps. So we're talking high elevation, intense sunlight, cold nights, hot days, very similar to, similar in the way that we have a huge diurnal shift in the property in Paso Robles Highlands district where this wine is grown. So we are growing this at about 2,000 foot elevation, which is pretty high for Paso Robles. Paso Robles Highlands district has the highest average elevation of any of the 12 AVAs within Paso Robles. And if you're just coming in, welcome to Day Drinking with Wes Hagen. We're talking about Lagrein, and we're talking about wine service and how to serve wine to your friends and family. So I guess maybe I should start with a quote from the New York Times on Lagrein. And this was basically what, pardon me. I normally go without a net, but I'm trying to do a little more show prep, so sometimes I will actually be reading to keep myself right on focus. Eric Asimov at the New York Times called Lagrein and described its qualities thusly: congenial, straightforward wines that can be deliciously plummy, earthy and chewy, dark and full-bodied, but not heavy, with a pronounced mineral edge. One thing it's noted throughout the literature on Lagrein is how well it maintains acidity at fairly high ripeness, which is nice to know. Now, this wine comes in at 12.8% alcohol. So yeah, I'm not, I'm not making the Turley wines. I'm not making the big, rich, 16, 17% Paso wines. This wine was harvested at about 22.8, 23 bricks, and really is a great wine that you can have with dinner. It's more in the Trento sort of Alto Adige style of a little bit more structure and a little less ripeness. So if you prefer a more Italian or European style of wine that's a little more food friendly, it's a little it's got all that tannin, all that structure, but it's not over the top on alcohol. The 2016 was more like 14.2. So did we choose specifically? We actually tasted the fruit and decided that we had in 2017 we had higher phenolic ripeness and more advanced ripeness at lower bricks, and we decided to pull the trigger and see what we could do with this wine. Spends about maybe 11 months in mostly neutral French oak, a little bit of a new French oak influence, but you won't smell it or taste it. It soaks up oak pretty well. And like most places in Italy right now, Lagrein is going through a kind of an evolution. And what do I mean by that? Well, I learned about sort of the fight between the old school and the new school of Italian wines when I visited the Langhe in Barolo just maybe 7 years ago. And what I found was the young winemakers are moving a little bit towards more of the international style, and the older generations of winemakers want to hold on to the traditions that they had. And the tradition of Lagrein was making a big, brutal, tannic wine that would take years and years to age and to soften into a wine. So they were often held in the Subtirol, Trentino, Alto Adige until maybe they were showing a little more softness, or you were encouraged, just like old school Barolo, lay them down for 5-7 years before you can drink them. Now, in a culture, the United States, where 90% of wines are consumed within 48 hours of purchase, cellaring wines is pretty much a non-starter. So we need to make wines that are a little bit softer. And the Italians are realizing when they make wines in the international style, maybe like, Super Tuscans or the new style of Barolo, less tannin, a little more approachable, so you don't have to wait 10 years. What you end up with is a bunch of young winemakers who want to sell wine and make money. And as a result, they're not falling prey to the international wine style, but more sort of navigating sort of what people want and what is selling. And you can't really, it's sort of like, do you want to make Pilsner and lager and the best Pilsners and lagers and be like a craft brewer, or do you just have to make your hazy IPA so you can make money? And to a certain extent, the new style of Lagrein, the new style of Barolo is about selling more wine, but it's also about allowing people to consume wine the same way that they consume hazy IPA, which is now, and now I need more. So the new style of Lagrein in the Alto Adige, and specifically around Trento and Trentino, is basically to soften the tannins with about a week less of maceration. Old school Lagrein might be 3-4 weeks on the skins. The new style is like 7 to 12 days on the skins, and a judicious but larger amount of new French or Hungarian, Eastern European oak to soften the tannins. So we're seeing a big sort of fight for the soul of Lagrein that no one's paying attention to, because most people have never even heard anyone say the word Lagrein. Lagrein. What does it smell like? It smells like Petite Syrah to me. It smells like, blackberry, blueberry, a little bit of that sort of pencil lead, minerality, a little bit of like dusty, kind of almost like a chalk kind of minerality to the nose, which is, de rigueur for the wine. It's supposed to be heavy and light at the same time with minerality. So, wow, that's kind of that's a lot to ask from a big red. I always say I'll show you the color, so I will. So you can sort of see, try to turn it around, check the meniscus. So I would call this sort of a medium plus ruby, almost on the edge. Now the question is, remember I told you when we're evaluating wine, which is fairly meaningless because if you stick your nose in, it doesn't smell good. It doesn't really matter how dark it is. But I'm putting this wine down on top of a printed page, and I can see the typeface. Remember, a font is not a typeface. I can see the typeface on the edges of the wine near the meniscus, but I cannot read the typeface with good light through the wine. So we're calling this opaque. So it is very, very dark wine. We'll expect opaque out of some Cabernets, out of some Bordeaux, but really I'm looking at Malbec, I'm looking at some Nebbiolo, I'm looking at Petit Syrah, I'm looking at a Dornfelder, some of those wines that are just super dark, super stainy. Quite honestly, the lower ripeness really does moderate a little bit of the jamminess in this wine. It's got all these fruits, but a lot of the 17, because it was higher ripeness, the fruits just kind of leapt out of the glass and were a little more come hither. This wine, I think, shows a little more restraint. And if I had to guess blind smelling this wine, I would guess Old World. Potentially because of the style we made it in and the lower alcohol style that it is in. Now, if you're asking yourself, how in the world has there ever been a Paso Robles wine made under 13% alcohol? Well, you might actually just have to order some and find out for yourself. And the question is a lot of these guys who make 14, 15, 16% alcohol wine in Paso Robles, I'd say the average probably in Paso Robles is high 14s, low 15s. They'll say, well, we need to hang it out that long to get proper and full ripeness. I would disagree. I would put this wine in front of them and say, all right, so let's talk about 22.8 bricks on Lagrein and a wine that is under 13% alcohol. Can it be a delicious wine? Is it a cocktail wine? Is it a food wine? Can it be both at 12.8? It definitely has a little more structure than most Americans are used to in wine, and this wine is going to age. This wine might be immortal because it has really, really amazing. Not only does it's almost like two wines. It has really nice fruit, really nice, bright, complex aromatics, and then in the mouth, it hits the attack like you're going to have a big, ripe Paso wine, and then in the finish, it ends up being very surprising. It kind of reminds me a little bit of some of the best Chardonnays I've had when people explain, why is Montrachet the world's greatest Chardonnay? Why is it $2,000 a bottle? I say because when you stick your nose in it, you think, oh my God, this is a dessert wine. It's so impressive aromatically. And then you put it in your mouth, the attack is monumental. It better be for $2,000. And then as the wine goes down your mouth, down your throat, and you go into the finish, the wine is so bone dry. The wine has such amazing minerality, such amazing and mouth cleansing acidity that it's almost like tasting two wines. And then the harmony comes when the wine comes into age and the two parts start talking to each other and you get a little bit of communication. And there's no longer, right now, I think this wine is separated between the fruity entry and attack, the beautiful expressive and mineral mid palate, and then a finish that probably has a little more structure than most American wine drinkers are used to, unless you're drinking Dun Howell Mountain a little bit early. So I think one great opportunity for this Lagrein, and right now this wine, if you bought a case of it, you'd get it for $20 a bottle. It's $30 at the tasting room, and I think you get it for about the same price right now as Wine Club, although that's going to change. I think this would be an awesome opportunity to pick up a little bit of Lagrein. So a little bit more about the actual variety. There is a valley within the sub-Tyrol, southern Tyrol, basically north. If you go to the very, very top of the boot in Italy, halfway between, there's a Y-shaped valley that is a glacial valley, and that is basically all within the sub-Tyrol, all within the Alto Adige and Trentino. In this region, produces Pinot Grigio that I would drink. And you know how I feel about Pinot Grigio. The best Pinot Grigio perhaps in the world comes from this region. Probably, you could probably argue it might have been also the cauldron where Pinot Grigio was really developed as a varietal. And then you have Pinot Blanc, which is another, you know how I feel about Pinot Blanc. Within this region also, they grow Chiava. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's sort of like what Beaujolais wants to be. Light on its feet, super bright, super fruity. It's a lovely, easy drinking red wine. And also, basically the sort of the gateway drug to the New World. If you cannot drink New World wines, if your last name is Wasserman, and you just think, oh, you know, I'm drinking First Growth, I'm drinking Grand Cru, well, bless you. Aren't you lovely? Bless your heart. That's just great. Chiava is supposed to be the way to get, it's the pontiff, right? It's the pontification, building a bridge between the old world and the new world. Chiava from the Subtirol is supposed to be incredibly fruity. It's been described to me as Cru Beaujolais, just bright, easy session wine, drinking lovely. So Chiava is another grape that's grown in that region. And then Lagrein is just under Chiava. Chiava is like the vin de plaisir. It's the pleasure wine. It's the wine that they're drinking every day out of jugs, you know, out of anything that they can. And then Lagrein gets a little bit more love. It's probably considered a little more of the serious varietal. Here's something you didn't know about Lagrein. Lagrein was being planted and made as a varietal before Cabernet Sauvignon. Before, oh, thank you. Chiava. Thank you, Nikki. Nikki is schooling me. She can do anything she wants because she bought a case of wine yesterday. Thank you. Chiava, of course. My Italian is absolutely horrible. The only sentence I know is Il vino es la poesia della terra. It just means wine is the poetry of the earth. And this wine has some good poetry to it. Now, I will say you better like a good structured red. If you like your reds soft and gutless, probably not going to do it for you. But if you want something that with a steak Fiorentina is going to just take that fat right off your tongue, so when you go back, you can taste all the beautiful fat in the meat. You can taste the flesh. You can taste a little bit of the vincotto. It's beautiful. So this is a wine that I think would surprise an Italian winemaker, that we made it so close to the traditional style and this was kind of a smart thing to do, because in 2017, the wine was pretty rich and ripe. It showed a lot more primary fruit. This one is a little more bound up and complex, and maybe kind of waiting to show its final character, in the future. I would definitely recommend laying this down for 3 years. I think it's showing nice enough for its price of admission right now. But my goal is going to be to try this wine in 2025 as it begins to sort of integrate, and I think this wine could probably go even longer than that. What else should we say about Lagrein before we take a little break? Welcome everybody, and talk about it. So it's made in two styles in the Alto Adige. It's made in the Scuro. Scuro means it's a macerated red wine, and also in German it would be called Dunkel, just like Dunkel beer, dark beer. So it would be dark. So we would call it Lagrein Dunkel, which would be the German for the dark Lagrein. And then we also, in the Alto, they also make it into specifically a very fragrant, wonderful rosé. And of course, they would call that Lagrein Rosato. And then in German, the word is Kretzer. So Lagrein Kretzer, Lagrein Rosato. So you have the rosé. We don't make a rosé out of it, but I thought I would at least mention that to you. The modern style, as we mentioned, is very similar to Barolo. There's 10 acres in Oregon. Congratulations, Oregon. And it's got to be on the Umpqua, because that's exactly the place where it could be grown. A lot of people who taste it, I always reference Petite Syrah, and maybe this wine, I should back off that a little bit because it's not as ripe and forward as a Petite Syrah. But our Madeline over at Wine Folly, I checked in, and she said that it reminds her of more of an Italian Barolo or a French Syrah. So either a Syrah grown someplace in southern France, but something that would have probably a lot more structure than you would probably be used to in an American or California Syrah, and one that might actually require a little bit of something completely un-American, and that's patience. Yes. Okay, so let's see. I talked about that. Ages really well. Oh, it's very closely related to Teraldigo. I've tasted more Lagrein than Teraldigo, so you'll have to help me with that one. I know that, Teraldigo does have a good reputation of being a nice, pleasant table wine in Italy. And it also can be found that the original grapes that helped lead to Lagrein, it has some cousins, and its genetic cousins are Syrah, Pinot Noir, and a grape that I would have to ask probably my friend Alex Roussan, Dureza or Duritha, Dureza. It pretty much sounds like it's coming from the Iberian Peninsula. So I'm guessing Spain or Portugal on that one. It's true. There is stuff about wine that I will admit my own ignorance to. Cool. Okay, so that is the Lagrein. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour myself a little bit more. And before we launch into a little bit about wine service, which is going to be sort of an open end, I'm not going to give my normal staff training on how to serve wine at a restaurant. But if you are a server, and this is supposed to bring together some people from in the business as well, I will actually mention some of the stuff on what pro service looks like. Most of the focus I'm going to have is the ritual of wine service as it is applicable for just you pouring wine at home, just for your own pleasure, for a small dinner party, for a formal dinner party, and then if you're a sommelier. So we will actually go through some of the protocol for wine service from the Court of Master Sommeliers. So you'll get that, but you'll also get the more sort of relaxed wine service. And of course, if you know me and probably what I'm going to talk about, I'm going to say, does the service matter? Asking that big question. How important is it what glass we use? How important is it how the bottle's open? How important is it that the label is pretty? All this stuff is going to be part of what we're going to talk about in just a couple minutes. Alex, longevity buddy. I met him through you. Yes, Alex is a good guy and he loves talking about. Oh, Stacy, who is my distributor these days? Our distributor for you in Lompoc would be American Wine and Spirits. I don't know if Ron Randrup ever visits you, or maybe there's a lot of different opportunities. I can make sure that you're hooked up. Same one, same distributor we've always used in California, American Wine and Spirits, which is the fine wine, small producer sort of side of Southern Glazer's Wine and Spirits, which is the largest distributor of wine and spirits in the world. Excellent. Yes, he's a good guy. All right, I'm going to back up and make sure I welcome everyone who came in. Susan, welcome. And John, if I did not say hello to you, you've got very good taste in gin. John, why is Petite Sirah not as popular these days? It's a California heritage varietal along with Zinfandel, which we talked about yesterday. Kurgenic Castellansky. Okay, it's still in my brain. Big Tannic Reds, people who love Petite love it. Zin had a huge movement with Zap. Maybe we need an organization to promote Petite Sirah. It is a California heritage variety, and as a almost fourth generation Californian, I'm willing to go to bat for Petite because I really do love Petite. It's certainly not planted as much as it used to be. And there's certainly hot spots for it. Paso, places up in the Sierra foothills. It really does require some heat to really get ripe. But that's a good question. Why isn't it? And then Peter Rogers is in the house. Hello, Mr. Mayor. It's lovely to have you here. And I say mayor not because that's his last name, like John, but because Peter Rogers is the mayor of Chino Hills. Awesome. Tom Collins. I've not had a Tom Collins. I've never consumed a Tom Collins. I never had an old fashioned. So there you go. Huh. Sounds like something delicious. And Heather's here. And Dan, my neighbor, Dan Kessler Hawk Vineyard, growing Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, damn close to as good as Clos Pepe. Great neighbor, and we always had wonderful conversations over our fence. And that when two farmers live next to each other and they get along, they're generally good people. So thanks. And Phil's here, and Melissa's here, and Michael Holland is back. Love to have Michael here because he keeps me honest about history. Awesome. Yes, the DM cork was called supercritical, and that's just a nice way of saying that it will not mess with your wine, and it's made not only with nature but also with science. And I love that supercritical name. I don't use it very often. And Bruce is here. Awesome. And Eve came. Yay! I invited all of your followers. I hope you don't mind. And that's wonderful. And I would love, and if you don't know Eve Hammond Bushman, she does Eve on Wine. and she's got some great stuff too. And Mary's there, and Beth's here, and Christy, I think I said hello to. John Slater, I think that's John Slater the third. He mentions that Lagrein is grown in cooler sites. Paso seems to be a much hotter appellation. There will be, in general, John, especially from you'll have to remind me of the producer, but we tasted those Lagreins down there in Redlands from the Alto. And I find the 17 very similar to that because we picked it a little less ripe. The similarity is going to be, even though the Lagrein around Trento, Trentino, the Alto Adige, and the Subtirol is going to have less heat summation during the year, we have the similarity of the diurnal shifts. The same is true at elevation up in the Dolomites and the Alps. They're going to have cold days and hot and warmer nights, or excuse me, cold nights and warmer days. So I think stylistically, if I brought this again to another dinner that we did out in Redlands, I'd love to put the wines in bags and watch people fall over themselves, probably thinking that this one is the Alto. I don't do that to try to replicate a different area. I'm not saying, hey, taste my wine. It's like just like the place where the grape was developed. We tried to take a different tact on Lagrein because we're trying to teach ourselves how to make this wine. The first wine we made was balanced on the edge of ripeness. Second wine we made was balanced on the edge of a little bit of an early pick and a higher structure in the wine. Now we have to ask ourselves, which one performs better in the market? Which one do we prefer? Which one also represents the idea of J.Wilkes, which is wines of character, wines of place. So do they both represent a place? I don't want the place to be the Alto Adige, because if you want to taste the Alto and travel the world in a glass, you can easily buy a beautiful wine from the Alto Adige that's made from Lagrein. All right. Tom Collins was my favorite drink as a middle schooler. All right, I'll leave that alone. Oh, P.S. I Love You is the organization for Petite Sirah. So if you want Petite Sirah to come back and Lagrein to come back, or to actually make a blip on the Nielsen data, think about checking out P.S. I Love You, or figuring out, I'm going to start the Lagrein organization, and it's going to be called Back to Lagrein. I think it's clever. All right. So I won't talk about you drinking sweet mixed drinks in middle school, Joseph, but it makes me wonder if you're from Wisconsin. Holly, welcome. Yes, I love Las Vegas AWS. Thank you so much. And I know that Vegas is hurting, and my friends Elaine and Scott are always in the house. They are Vegas wine writers, and I'm encouraging, and I will encourage every single one of you to consider later in this year, when we get out and start having some fun in the world again and start hugging people and doing all those things. There are a lot of people in Vegas that need our love. It is a town in the United States that represents the best of hospitality and some of hospitality that I specifically don't enjoy. I'm not a huge gambler. I'm not, a huge fan of all the things that happen in Vegas. But what I do love is walking around, people watching, especially trying to guess where people are from by the way they look and the clothes they're wearing, which I think is one of the most fun things you can do. It's a fantastic city. My wife is in a wheelchair. And if you want to talk about a city that is ADA compliant, greater than any other city, as a result of being mostly constructed post-ADA. What year was ADA, hon? 1990. So, obviously, the people watching, the booze, the food, Lotus of Siam, all of the amazing restaurants that I've eaten. Ferraro's is another one that I love. It's absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. All right, and I'll get to everyone's question, I promise. Oh, the Turlano. Turlano is the name of the both the Pinot Blanc and the Lagrein that I tasted out of the Alto Adige, and both of them were absolutely extraordinary. So if you want to try a wine, the Turlano is absolutely wonderful. Ohio's it's not that far away from Wisconsin, and I suspect Ohio probably has a pretty high per capita drinking rate. Awesome. Lagrein all the time. I love it. And Dan Kessler. And say hello to Ellen for me too. That's awesome. No. Nikki's holding me to account. She's asking what became the most planted grape in California in 1901 when Zinfandel was taken over. Michael Holland suggested it was Alicante Boucher, but I don't know that yet, or Grenache. We're guessing they're going to be workhorse grapes. So, but we'll find out about that. Thanks. Matthew says it's been fun day drinking with us. Appreciate that. And then I think I caught up with all that. So I'm going to go down and check out a couple more. We have a huge diurnal shift here in the high desert, California. Highs in the low hundreds. It's probably too hot. I would agree, Ian. That's probably too hot. Although, it's pretty common to get 100-degree days out in the Paso Robles Highlands district. It's just those cold nights that really save us. So if you have that big diurnal shift, I don't know. Planting Lagrein as a viticultural consultant, I would probably be fired by most people because once you get it in the bottle, there's not a lot of instant demand for Lagrein. Lagrein's a geek wine, and that's why we make like 100 to 250 cases a year. It is a tiny, tiny production. And the only reason I'm even showing this wine is down to less than a pallet right now. So the only reason I'm showing this wine is because we had to close our tasting, or our tasting room's open for pickups. And if you want cheese and charcuterie, we still do plates out the door, but we have no service within the tasting room in downtown Santa Barbara. So as a result, tasting room only wine is now being put on the website so you guys can buy it too. Absolutely. Nice. I didn't know Nikki was in Vegas. That's awesome. All right. Yes, we are all going to Vegas when this is done. We're going to all get together. We're going to go whoop, whoop. We're going to have a drink. We're going to dance. We're going to go off. So let's all make a plan for Vegas later. Hawaii is going to need our love too. So, and I'm supposed to be in Hawaii next month. I just don't think it's going to happen, which really breaks my heart. It's one of my favorite places. Which also means that what is the oldest food and wine festival in the United States? I bet you don't know. Well, now I said Hawaii, you probably do. The Kapalua Wine and Food Festival is the oldest food and wine festival in the United States. I was surprised too. And it's also the greatest wine and food festival to go to as a presenter. They gave me a goodie bag with like little bags of Fernet, little bags or little bottles of Fernet, little bottles of this. Oh, it's just fantastic. And Richard Gattal, welcome back. Love the fact that you're here. Yeah, I couldn't either. Nikki says she couldn't find out what the grape was, but I bet we can find out. And now I'm going to make a note. Zin 1901 question mark. We'll see if I do my homework, and if I don't, I would love for Nikki to punish me. That would be wonderful. I'll drink Rombauer for a week or something. Nah, just kidding. Lagrein makes me happy. All right, we're gonna it looks like I have just about everyone caught up and everyone is welcomed. If I haven't welcomed you, welcome. Looks like most of the folks are in. Christopher just came in, so welcome. So now I'm going to stop welcoming people to the show, and I'm going to talk a little bit about wine service. Now, originally this was going to be really focused on servers. So I did invite a bunch of servers, and I know that we do have hospitality professionals watching, listening, and that are planning to listen. And we're going to be using this as part of our staff training for on-premise restaurants and accounts, wine bars and stuff that are going to be serving our wine once we get back in there, filling those seats and supporting them. So really, I think the big focus for me tonight is let's first start talking about glasses, wine glasses, because obviously you know how to open a bottle, screw cap, corkscrew, a couple different kinds of corkscrews, and we'll talk a little bit about those next. But does the glass really matter in the service of wine? I just happen to have a house full of Riedel, Schatz, Zweigau, all the different cool glasses, because wherever I go, people give me glasses. So I'm very lucky. My main focus, if I'm drinking wine, if I'm coming over to your house, say you are someone who really doesn't care about glasses, but you're having some people over to your house that you know that are kind of wine geeks. Oh boy, looks like I lost, one sec. Looks like I lost live on, okay. I won't do what I did last time, which was do vertical video, because that's just wrong. Okay, for some reason we got kicked out on the Wes Hagen Facebook page. As I told you, we have a much better link over here, but it's perfect timing because we are now moving over to wine service. So if you're trying to impress people that are at your house, one thing I wouldn't do is to serve wine in those little 4-ounce Libby glasses with the big glass bead around. Those are the glasses that upset me because when I put a little delicious wine in the glass and I try to swirl it, it goes everywhere, it flops out. Those are the glasses that they have at the worst restaurants. If you're going to buy some glasses, I think the best thing you can do is maybe talk to a local fine dining restaurant and ask them who they buy their glasses through, which is probably Southern Glazers, for the Riedel stuff, different levels. And wow, you're going to find out that the Riedel stem that you thought was $12, restaurants are paying about $3 a stem for this glass. And it is real leaded crystal. It is beautiful, real leaded crystal. So $262 or something for a Venom Bordeaux glass. As I mentioned previously, I'm a big fan of the Riedel Sauvignon Blanc glass for all different wines. Get yourself some fancy glasses. And one thing I would recommend is for your everyday wine drinking glasses. And I'm not a Riedel guy. I don't believe that Riedel puts the wine exactly on the place of your palate that you get the best varietal. I think those Riedel seminars to a certain extent are smoke and mirrors. But at the same time, they're good glasses, and I use them almost exclusively in my own house because I'm given them constantly as samples to use at the tasting room. So I would love to say that our everyday drinking glasses in our house are the Riedel O series, which are stemless. And if you've ever done the dishes with stemless glasses, what you'll realize is once you start cleaning stemless glasses, you never want to go back to stems because stems make the dishwasher a very dangerous place for a wine glass. I tend to break 80% of my stems in the dishwasher, pulling them out, putting them in, and then you got the broken pieces of glasses in your dishwasher, which makes for no fun for your fingers. Now, so I recommend maybe the Riedel O's for that. Having some nice stemmed glasses. If it was me, I would maybe order. Whoops. Dun, 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 dun. Back in stem. I would maybe recommend looking for maybe six of these, 6 of the Sauvignon Blanc glasses, and then maybe 6 Chardonnay Riedel O's, 6 of the Bordeaux, or either the Bordeaux. Maybe you can get 6 Bordeaux, 6 Burgundy. In a perfect world, you would have a white wine stem that's a little thinner, and then you would have a Pinot Noir stem, and then you would have sort of a thinner, a little bit more of a compact bowl for your Bordeaux stems, which would be under the Bordeaux wines, the Bordeaux Riedel. I think having a go-to white wine stem and then maybe 2 different stems for reds. A stem for Bordeaux's, which you could use for Syrah, Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, Bordeaux, Malbec, Nebbiolo, Barbera, and such. And then a glass like this that you would use for Pinot Noir. A lot of somms are really liking these glasses for sparkling wine now too. But just don't swirl because you're going to lose those bubbles so darn quick. Day drinking. Okay, so we've kind of covered glasses. You're having a dinner party. You've decided what glasses to use. Do you open the wines when people arrive? When I have people arrive, as they open the door, I always make sure there are champagne stems, a bucket of ice water, and ice cold bubbles ready to go. Bubbles are the foreplay of dining. Otherwise, meaning if you go to dining without doing your proper foreplay with champagne, canapes, little nibbles and stuff, to me, a real meal always starts with champagne. And normally I mean real champagne, but I'm always happy to pour Prosecco, some nice Cava, or my favorite domestic sparkling wine, which is the Gloria Ferrer non-vintage Brut Rosé. For $20, it's hard to hate. And Trader Joe's always tends to have some really good sparkling wines for under $20 as well. So as your guests arrive, I would always recommend making sure you have champagne stems or some type of glass that they can enjoy some sparkling wine and a couple bottles of sparkling wine ready to go. Sometimes I like to have 2 different sparkling wines so people can play, maybe a demi-sec, something that has a little bit of residual sugar and something bone dry with high acidity. So if there's people that like a little bit of softness in their wine, that a real champagne doesn't completely freak them out. I think after people are drinking their champagne, I think champagne should be consumed sort of having a conversation before dinner. And then as we sit, your stemware should be out, basically put out how you're going to pour the wines one by one, from white generally on your right to the reds on the left. So you might have 2 or 3 glasses. I would just have a white glass and a red glass. People that have to have like 17 glasses on the table, I'm doing the dishes in my own house. So they'll say, are we going to have a different glass for each wine? Or do I have to rinse my glass with water? Water does not belong in a wine glass. Soap does not belong in a wine glass. Wine belongs in a wine glass. And what I really try to do is to make sure that if we're doing 3 whites, that I order them so the whites can go in the same glass, because actually pouring a glass of wine or a taste of wine into a glass where you've been using with other wines, I think you're going to get a more accurate description of that wine as long as the glass is pretty empty. Pour another pour on top of the last pour. I think you're going to get a better idea of how that wine tastes than if you did the same thing with water. How's that possible? I think the water is going to dilute the wine, and it's also going to coat the surface tension. It's going to create a surface of water around your glass. So when you swirl it, it's going to sort of moderately reduce the amount of aroma that you're providing. I do not like rinsing my glass with water. I like going from dry wine to dry wine, from white to pink to red, with never putting anything in my glass except wine. And maybe just making sure the last few drops get out there so the wine glass is generally empty. But in general, I like to pour wine pours on top of other wine pours as opposed to rinsing the glass with water. And honestly, if you want to put 7 glasses on the table, put 7 glasses on the table. It looks really impressive. And then as far as what I would say next, as far as opening the wine and decanting the wine, this is really important. We're only talking about 3 things tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about glasses. We're going to talk a little bit about opening the bottle, and then we're going to talk a little bit about decanting. And then we're going to continue talking about serving wine. This is part 1 of 3. I've broken up wine service into 3 parts, so we're not going to go too far on this. Next thing I want to talk about is corkscrews and basically how to open a bottle of wine. Obviously, lots of different types of corkscrews. There's the one with the little thing on top and the little arms that go back and forth. And you remember it probably from your parents' drawer, and you used to make little jokes with it. There's Jack LaLanne doing his exercises. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of those corkscrews. I like a Cotal double action corkscrew that has the 2 parts. So you pull it, you basically pull the first half of the cork out, and you push this out and pull the rest of it out, and then pop the cork out and smell it. It's got a nice worm. That's the worm. That's the knife. And I like the Cotal knife. These are made in France. You can buy a True Tap one for like, $1.55 wholesale. These cost about $7 wholesale. Although I think Cotal made my favorite corkscrew, and I totally stole it. Nikki at Liquid Farm, they had the Cotal like sommelier corkscrews with the real wood in them. Those are like $10, and I think we sell them for like $20. Those were some of the best ones. So I really like the Cotal. L'Aïeul is a specific French region. It's almost like an AOC for knife production. And L'Aïeul used to be known for making some of the best knives in all of Europe. And now they've changed that production into corkscrews. So L'Aïeul would probably be, as far as a waiter's corkscrew, considered the highest quality of any of them. But I will take this Cotal over a L'Aïeul because I think this is just, it's a little more like a katana than a broadsword, and the L'Aïeul will last for generations. It's sort of like Philippe Patek watch. You give it to your kid when you die, but it's going to be something. I'd say a corkscrew like this, and I also lose corkscrews constantly. And if I had a $150 L'Aïeul, I'd probably have one trip and I'd forget and put it in my carry-on, and then they would take it away from me at the airport. So that's all well and good. There's also the openers that put a needle into the bottle and then put CO2 gas and force the cork out. I know a lot of people get them as Christmas and birthday gifts. I've never, ever seen anyone use them in their house, not once. I think someone showed them to me. Oh, look what I got for Christmas. I'm like, I tried it. It was, not a big fan. I mean, if you think that it's really difficult to open a bottle of wine without, gas, and I don't get it. But some people like them. There's the tabletop version, one of those huge sort of wooden base things that has the huge handle that goes wonk honk, wonk honk. And if you do it right and hold the bottle right, it pulls the cork out. And if not, it just pushes the cork right into the bottle. I'm not a huge fan of those, although I finally did get to learned to use one. We had one at Clopepi for the first year or two. I just kept pushing corks, and then finally found a specific way to hold the bottle and pull the lever, and it actually started working. Then there's the Rabbit, which has the two little handles that kind of go around the bottle, and then you have a little handle that kind of goes pop, pop. Probably the fastest, easiest way to make wine or open a bottle of wine. In fact, what I found at tasting rooms and stuff, sometimes I didn't even pull the capsule. I would just use the Rabbit with the capsule, and it would just break the capsule in any way important. Fastest way to probably get into a bottle of wine is straight Rabbit, popping it out. Then I think what I wanted to talk a little bit about sort of as part of sort of finishing up is a little bit about service standards and a little bit about temperature in wine. I also mentioned that I'll give you a little bit of the Court of Master Sommelier protocol. Let's talk a little bit about decanting first. The one thing that I would do about service of wine, if I could drill something into your head that you couldn't forget, it would be this: decant every single young wine you ever drink that's not sparkling. Am I telling you to decant rosé? Yes. Am I telling you to decant Chardonnay? Yes. Am I telling you to decant Pinot Grigio? No, it doesn't matter, unless it's from the Alto Adige. No, I'm just kidding. I talk a lot of smack about Pinot Grigio because Pinot Blanc is what Pinot Grigio wants to be when it grows up. Am I saying decant Pinot Blanc before you drink it? Heck yes, decant the heck out of it. Young wine needs air. We put wine into the bottle with minimal dissolved oxygen. What does that matter? Dissolved oxygen is what helps wine create aroma. You can't smell wine without oxygen. If there's no dissolved oxygen in wine, without swirling it, you will never smell a thing. It's the dissolved oxygen that carburetes the wine in the same way that a carburetor oxygenates a fuel, or specifically gasoline, to be more likely to be, to have greater explosive potential, to have more volatility. Because what we want in wine is volatility. We don't want volatile acid, but we want volatility in the sense that we want the wine to be volatile. So when we volatilize it, when we excite it on a molecular basis, when we force it to create a vapor phase in the glass, when we stick our nose in it and inhale it and put it up into our olfactory lobes and get a good sense from it, that's what we want. We want the wine to smell delicious. We want the wine to give off as much aroma as possible. And to do that, we give it a lot of air. Now, it works in the glass, but a little bit more slowly. What I'd suggest in any wine, I like to use 5 years as a general rule of thumb. So 2015 or 2016, 16, 17, 18, 19, maybe add 15 on there. Decant it. If it's rosé, decant it. If it's white, decant it. Well, how do you decant a white wine or a rosé? I mean, doesn't the wine get warm? Well, no. What you want to do is put it in a decanter, beat the heck out of it, give it a good shake, give it some air, rotate it one way, then rotate it the other, beat that wine up. Give it a good violent, a little of that beautiful ultra violence, and then set the decanter on ice, but not in an ice bath, not in ice and water. Normally, when we make an ice bucket, it's generally, I like the sommeliers say 1/2 water, 1/2 ice. I like 2/3 water, 1/3 ice, so the bottle slips easily all the way in. I would say that 50% ice, 50% water. But for a decanter, I like to put the decanter just on ice itself. So it stays cold, but it doesn't get so cold that you can't taste the wine. Remember, here's something really interesting. The warmer a wine is, the more aroma it produces. The warmer a wine is, the more you'll actually taste of the wine. The warmer a wine is, the less acid and structure you'll taste. The colder the wine, the less you'll smell. The colder the wine, the less you'll taste. Hint, there's a reason they serve Budweiser ice cold. And then probably the most important thing is, if a wine is too warm, it's very hard to enjoy, and if a wine's too cold. In general, most sommeliers agree, Americans drink their whites too cold and their reds too warm. There's some crazy protocol I saw. It's like, if you have a 72-degree bottle of wine, how long do you put it in the fridge before you serve it? And I thought that was kind of lame, because I would just say, let's talk about temperature. Let's just talk about temperature, and we can get within that range, and you guys will know exactly what you can do. So I would say that sparkling wine should be served the coldest of any beverage that you would serve, any alcoholic beverage you would serve in your house. I would say champagne, bubbles, cava, sparkling wine, prosecco, sect, should be served specifically around 45 degrees right out of the fridge. If your fridge is colder than 45 degrees, you might want to let it warm up a little bit. Keep it in or around an ice bucket and put it back in when it needs to go back down to 45. White wine should be served around 55 degrees. So you definitely want them to warm up a little bit. I like to bring a bottle of white out of the fridge maybe 20 minutes before I serve it, and then serve it 20 minutes out of the fridge for the course, and then leave it on the table and revisit it as it warms up. And to tell my guests, you will really notice as this wine absorbs some oxygen, as it warms up, it'll become more expressive and give a better sense. This is a huge problem in drinking wine. If you drink a fair amount of wine like I do, I would definitely, yes, don't decant champagne, but absolutely think about the fact that how many times have you actually had the last sip of a wine at a 3-hour dinner where you're like, damn, this wine had needed 3 hours. I wonder how it would taste tomorrow. That's the thing. We just don't know. So getting as much oxygen into that wine. So decanting it, decanting our reds, decanting our whites, decanting everything but sparkling wine and champagne gives the wine, I would say, adds $15 in value to every bottle that you'll do that with. I really, really do try to decant. In fact, I probably should be decanting the wines I taste. I'm not following my own advice, so I should probably be decanting these wines as well. I want to tell you, I'm going to finish up by talking a little bit about encouraging people who sell wine in restaurants, and to give an idea of a sales technique, which is probably, I won't talk about sales very often too much on this channel, but this is a good one. First of all, let's talk about the fact that you should be able to make almost an additional $20,000 a year as a server at a fine dining restaurant selling wine. So how do you make an extra $20,000 a year selling wine at a restaurant? The answer is you sell 6 $50 bottles on the floor every night. One of my best friends, Jason Gilbreth, who I went to school with, who some of you are like, oh, I think I met Jason Gilbreth. Was the lead server at Ruth's Chris Pasadena, and he was bringing home between $450 and $650 in tips every night. How do you make $500 in tips a night and make almost 6 figures yearly income, only working 20 hours a week? Well, you have to be a fantastic waiter with a fantastic personality, but you also have to suggest that a bottle of wine on a table at Ruth's Chris is going to make the steak twice as good, and if it's not, he'll buy your bottle. And that was his sales technique. He'd say, if you drink wine and enjoy an adult beverage, I'd like to match your steak with a glass of Cabernet or a bottle of Cabernet, and if it doesn't make that steak twice as good and let you taste the wine again and again every time you take a bite and a sip, I'll buy that bottle or I'll buy that glass. So he puts wine on more tables than most Italians do, and he just crushes it. So that's really important. So if you want to make more money, you've got to actually ask yourself, how can I get a bottle of wine on every table? Of course, if you have Muslim or Mormon guests, that's not going to work. You could bring one. They probably wouldn't drink it, but it won't. So, but you do know that most people going to fine dining do enjoy a glass of wine, do enjoy an adult beverage. So let's get that going. The one thing I'll talk about last sort of is the Sullivan nod, which is a really interesting sort of, it falls in the area of, it's sort of like, it's not quite psychology, it's not quite criminal science, but it is a psychological suggestion on how to get people to do what you want them to do. So the Sullivan nod works like this. If I give you 2 options, and in one of those options, I stay in a neutral physical position, and then on the second option that I would prefer you to, I guess I do it automatically, prefer you to agree with, I lean forward slightly and I nod. This is how it works. So we have 2 wine options tonight. We have the Beringer White Zinfandel, and we have the 1991 Dunn Family Howell Mountain. We have 2, your cocktail, oh, you'd like a gin and tonic. Well, we have our well gin and tonic, or if you would like, you can try the Boodles. Now, if you lean forward and give a little nod, psychology tells us you are much more likely to encourage the person to take your suggestion. It's the power of suggestion, and it really works. So if you're a server, and this works in almost any position that you're in, if you're a high school English teacher, you say, I would really like you guys to pass the test tomorrow. maybe that would work. If you were selling cars, it's like, oh, of course, we have the regular model, and then we have the model with the Corinthian leather. This is the Sullivan Knot, and it's interesting. It was taught to me by my friend Jason Gilbreth, and he uses it to encourage people to buy the crazy tomahawk steaks that are like $180, and it works pretty well on that. Wow, gosh, did an hour go fast? Maybe it's not for you. Maybe you're like, gosh, when will this guy ever shut up? But I really appreciate you guys being here. We will end the kind of first part about wine service. Again, when people come to your house, make sure you might know what kind of wines they want. Remember to serve wines to your guests that you know they'll like, and not only the wines, especially freaky little wines that are kind of maybe not as appreciable. You know your friends. I hope you know your friends. And I would say it's also a good idea. You're going to probably ask them if they're gluten-free, dairy-free, if they're vegan, if what they eat, at least we do in California. And when you do that, say, well, what kind of wine styles do you like too? Take that into consideration and make sure maybe the wines are going to be delicious, not only for the people that are coming, but for the dishes. We've already talked about food and wine pairing. We'll continue to talk about food and wine pairing. Just make sure the intensity of the dish matches the intensity of the wine. Fat level in the dish is consummate with the structure in the wine, acid and white, tannins and reds. Pinot Noir goes with everything. Champagne goes with everything. If you don't know what to serve, always have a bottle of bubbles and Pinot Noir on the table, and it almost matches with anything and everything you could possibly serve. Let's see. Let's talk really quickly. Get you guys through the quick and strictly commercial aspect. We want to sell you guys wine. We want this to be an educational, fun, sort of distracting event for our sparkling isolation. But I also want to make sure that you guys realize my boss is paying me to do these, and he is very impressed so far by how much wine you guys have been buying, so keep it up. We have a MillerFamilyWines.com, MillerFamilyWines.com, and I'll try to put this in the comments, MillerFamilyWines.com, and we just found out, and I have absolute clarity, that this promo code will work until next Wednesday, and Wednesday is April 15th until midnight. So we have a little more time, but don't let that stop you. For Barrel Burner Rosé, $7.50 a bottle. Barrel Burner Red Wine, both 90 points in the Somm Journal, $7.50 a bottle. These are all full 750 milliliter bottles. We have the Barrel Burner Chardonnay and Cabernet, both 92-point scored wines. Very, very big kind of ripe style. Those are $7.50 a bottle. All these wines are normally about $15 a bottle. Then the Ballard Lane, Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Noir, Zinfandel, Chardonnay, I should have said, Cabernet Sauvignon, all $7.50 a bottle. So, if you buy a case, it's 1 cent shipping on a full case of wine. I think that comes out to be nationwide about $90 a case. So do consider jumping onto MillerFamilyWines.com. You can also find the J.Wilkes wines there. You can mix and match a case as long as you buy 6 bottles of the other wines and 6 bottles of J.Wilkes. You can mix and match it and still use the promo code and get the 1 cent shipping. If it doesn't show in your cart, it will show in your invoice. And if you have any questions, you can ask me, or I'll make sure the order desk knows what's up. That is all the commercial stuff that I'll give. Now, semi-commercially, I would love for you guys to join me in subsequent, and I have the calendar in front of me, which is buried somewhere on these pages. I have to figure out if I can maybe pin the schedule somewhere on my page so everyone can see it. Let's talk about tomorrow. We will have a hangout at 5 o'clock. There's no agenda. There's no wine I'm bringing. We're just going to hang out and drink and talk. And that'll be here tomorrow at 5 o'clock on Saturday. Sunday, drink without me. I know you can handle it. I'm taking the day off. Not that this is all that troublesome for me to get through. Monday, we are doing J.Wilkes Cabernet Sauvignon. And I'm kind of thinking we might do, so we're supposed to be doing that. Okay, how about, I got a great idea. Thank you for your patience. On Monday, we will do the J.Wilkes Cabernet Sauvignon 2017, and the subject, which should fall under the idea of basic wine education, will be, what do I taste and does it matter? So we'll talk a little bit about how to do a tasting note, and then how not to do a tasting note, because you really don't have to. Unless that's something you do for a living or a job, or it helps you understand wine if you want to geek out and learn to take a tasting note. So we'll do, what do I taste and does it matter? And we will add how to do a tasting note as well. So So we'll do tasting notes and what do I taste and does it matter on Monday with the 17 Cabernet Sauvignon. Tuesday, we just do a wine, shorter show, and that will be an older Pinot Blanc. You know what, though? We're doing a special on the Pinot Blanc, an older Pinot Blanc and an older Chardonnay, and I think we're going to get the promo code ready for a mixed case at a great discount of older wines on the 15th. So I'm gonna switch out the 2016 Pinot Blanc on that day, and I want to do 2018 Viognier. So we'll do Viognier and the history of Viognier and the road to hell, because that's where the term comes from, believe it or not, and the fact that Viognier has a very special relationship with Syrah that I will tell you about, not only to be blended in the Côte Rôtie, but the grapes are very, very highly related. And then on the 15th, we're going to do something a little crazy, and this is on Wednesday. I'll be announcing the next promotion. That's the day that the 50% off the 3 brands ends, and we're going to be throwing out some new deals for you guys. So that'll be the last day, the last night, and I'll clearly do a last call on those wines. We're going to do something really weird. We're going to do 2012. I've gone through a lot of these wines. So before I start coming back to some of the wines we've done previously, which will eventually have to happen because it depends on how long we're doing this. I'm not going to have 55 different wines to taste with you guys, but I am going to try to bring in older vintages so we can sort of discuss, and maybe even some older vintages that you can buy so we can talk about them. So 15, we're going to talk about an older vintage that you can't have because there's only 4 bottles left in the world, and that is the 2012 late harvest Vendange Tardive Pinot Blanc. So we're going to be tasting a wine that I didn't have anything to do with as the winemaker at J.Wilkes. This was made by Vidal Perez, and I'll invite Vidal to come in and maybe even talk about that wine. Previous winemaker to me, the winemaker between Jeff Wilkes' untimely passing and myself, was the guy who worked with Jeff Wilkes in the cellar, Vidal Perez, who made some amazing wines and gave me some great wines to start selling when I first came to be the consulting winemaker and brand ambassador for J.Wilkes. And then the subject of Wednesday. So Wednesday is supposed to be sort of advanced wine education, kind of geeky stuff. I'm going to choose my 10 favorite wines in the market for 10 favorite wines for the money under or near $20. And none of them will have anything to do with the wines that I make or promote. So I'm going to be finding and talking to you guys about some of my favorite wines right around that $20 price point, which seems to be the hot price point right now. $17, according to the Nielsen data right now, is where all the action is sort of occurring. It's the average price of what people are paying for a bottle of wine right now. So I did take that data into consideration in putting together these shows for you. I hope that'd be awesome. Oh, yeah. Okay, and then I'm not looking at comments. I'm almost done, and then we'll do some comments, and then we'll set you on to do some independent study in day drinking. And if it's night where you are, well, I summon the Egyptian sun god Re, and Re will give you the energy you need and the sun you need to make you think that you're day drinking, so you feel just a little naughty, because that's awfully fun. Then on Thursday, the 16th, we're doing my original thought, and I'll have to see if we have all of our stuff ready to go, but my idea is to do the J.Wilkes Cellar Night, which will be talking about how J.Wilkes ages. That just came into my head. How does J.Wilkes ages? How can we look? We'll talk a little bit about Pinot Blanc, Chardonnay, Viognier, Pinot Noir, Zinfandel, Cabernet, Lagrein, Barbera. I do a Kent's Red. We'll do Kent's Red later, but Kent's Red's 90% Barbera, 10% Lagrein, named after Kent Pierce, who was here at the show yesterday, a good friend of Jeff Wilkes. So we will do how does J.Wilkes age, and we'll taste the 2016 Chardonnay. And the exciting thing about the 16 Chardonnay is we'll talk to you all about it, but it'll be available for purchase. We are releasing out of our library 10 cases of the 16 Chardonnay and 10 cases of the 16 Pinot Blanc, which is extraordinary. And we are going to be putting together mixed cases, 6 bottles of each, and releasing 20 of them to you guys. And we're going to be putting them, normally these wines, I think we sell our library wines in the tasting room for $40, which is almost twice of what they actually cost when they were current releases. But we're going to give you guys a really, really hot discount to keep those orders coming in. So keep in mind, and if you like a wine, I'm not saying these wines are mature. You can still lay them down for some of them for 5 to 7 years at least, but they will come delivered with just a little bit of patience built in, which if you're anything like me, that's helpful. The only way I taste fully mature wines is when I lose them and then find them later. Awesome. So I think that's, and then Friday, next week, we're doing Kent's Red, 90% Barbera, 10% Lagrein. And then we're going to flip it because it's supposed to be in the business and talk sort of Psalm stuff. And I'm going to be working with Will Costello, Master Psalm, and we're going to be compiling a list of the 5 wines that are worth at least the $100 that they cost. We're going to be talking about what quality to price ratio is on the high end of wines. Are there QPR wines that are $2,000? And I say absolutely yes. That even the most expensive wines in the world at current release theoretically are accessible to most people in first world countries. And we'll talk about what value means in wine next week, between what's the best $20 bottle of wine I can find you and what $100 plus wines I think are totally worth it. And that's kind of where we're going with it. And Al-Shamala just came in. So we're going to actually sort of finish up. I'm just going to make sure that if I didn't see you come in, that I welcome you. And if you have any questions, I'll be finishing those up. And we'll be out of here hopefully in about, I don't know, like 5-10 minutes. I haven't been, Michael Holland says he hasn't been able to find any stats on production in 1901. I know if there's anyone who can do it, it's you, Michael. No pressure. Concan and Petite Syrah is a huge fan of Michelle's. And big diurnal shifts in the Livermore Valley. Of course, you're going to see a little more diurnal shift there than other places in the Delta. What's a great food to pair Lagrein with? Ooh. I'd say I would pair the 17, which was riper, with lamb, beef, stew. This one has enough acidity that it can go probably with lighter dishes. I would think like barbecue pork, ribs, roast chicken, I think would be excellent, especially if it was stuffed with something savory, like some marjoram and some sage and some herbs that are going to give it a little more breadth of flavor. Even mushrooms and the stuffing would make it just perfect. If I think of Italian dishes, I think of rollino, which is a slightly bitter radicchio dish with cheese that's stuffed almost like a calzone. That's chopped kind of thin and you almost like eat it. It's amazing. Any type of pasta, especially pastas that have a lot of fat, a lot like a lamb ragu would be perfect because this one has a lot of structure. Super high fat foods. So pizza would be perfect. Pizza, there's a lot of cheese and there's a lot of meat there, and that's gonna give you a good hit of fat. So I would say pizza, pasta sauce, maybe even like a Alfredo, because I mean, I think one serving of Alfredo sauce has the same amount of fat as like half a pound of bacon. So there's some fat in there. There's definitely some fat. Yeah, duck cat. Richard Takata is suggesting duck confit cassoulet. Cassoulet made correctly screams Burgundy or Pinot Noir to me, but certainly this wine has that combination of tannin and acidity that I think Pinot Noir generally, it's more tannic than a Pinot for sure. But I think it would match duck absolutely beautifully. And cassoulet is actually one of my favorite foods in the world. I actually tried to make cassoulet once from a kit. Where did I get that kit? Somewhere back east, D'Artagnan. It was like an $80 cassoulet kit. It came with like 7 different animals, protein, like goose this and pig that, and all these wonderful meats and different kinds of meats. And 2 days later, I had cassoulet, and it was absolutely delicious. I've never had cassoulet. It's not a good summer food. It's something you want while it's still a little cool outside. And John Dickey, so glad you're here. Please tell your beautiful wife I said hello. Ian's still in the house and came on back. Thank you, Ian. We always love to have you here. Melissa, I think I already said hello. And Shauna, it's lovely to have you. And Tommy, Mr. Schmitz, thank you so much. Love the surprise of a wine 3 days after it's been open. No doubt. Isn't it interesting how many wines are actually better the day that it's open? And one thing I've been surprised with Miller Family Wines, and call this commercial moment or not, is how long these wines stay open and stay fresh. So I would say most Miller family wines are better the second day that they're open after in current release. And day 3, they're generally, I would serve them in my own restaurant without any, oh my gosh, you know what I forgot to talk about in context? I promised Tom, who makes these things, that I would introduce you to these. This is the repour. And if you guys could see, it actually says repour on the top here. And what is a repour? Well, a repour, it has this cool little silver it almost looks like a child-proof thing. Inside, this is a nice rubber stopper that is sort of ribbed for the bottle's pleasure, but it also makes a very nice tight seal. This is $2. And if you own a winery or you can get wholesale, you can get this for $1. But generally on the market, you're going to pay about $2.29 for a repour. What I do, the first thing I do when I'm about to pull open a repour, I write 410. It works much better with a Sharpie. Pull the silver. Smells totally neutral, totally neutral. And inside here is a proprietary material that absorbs oxygen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop that in. That bottle is now in stasis. That bottle will not oxidize. That bottle will be drinkable, sound, fresh, and delicious for about a month, as long as I continue to put this back on. Now, repour suggests that you use these 1 repour per bottle and discard the repour after you've consumed the bottle. I slightly disagree and find in my own world and my own samples, I move these because maybe I don't keep a bottle of wine on my counter longer than a day or two. If I actually will throw these out after using them maybe in 4 different bottles, or if I notice the bottles start fading, or the repour is over 3 weeks old. So the actual suggestion, and I'm sure this is important for Tom's business, is to use 1 repour per bottle. But I find I just keep them rotating through bottles in my collection and in my samples. And if you open as many bottles as I do and go into the market and selling them, putting this in the bottle does a great job of keeping that sample fresh so you can take it into the market. So repour.com, love these things. I've run them through their tests and everything else. I think it's a great product, and it's a lot cheaper than spending $300 on a Coravin and then continuing to have to buy stupid $10 cartridges that should charge no more than $2. So really good deal, amazing. You can sell them in your tasting room, repour.com, and it's a great way to keep wine fresh. And now I know that, well, now this Lagrein will be good for at least a month, which won't matter because it will be probably gone tomorrow. All right, so what should we talk about? What? I know. Okay. Oh yeah, okay. So Holly asked about deals on the wine. Just go to Miller Family Wine Company. Your promo code is DD50, and I'm hoping that you got all the information about that. Wine and food pairing seminar. So wine and food pairing, I don't know when the next time we're going to be doing wine and food pairing, but I will certainly look. When we do it, it will be on Fridays. So my guess is, how about 424 food and wine pairing? Now, that is if you want to learn food and wine pairing here on this channel in Facebook Live. If you would prefer, I also do food and wine pairing at Allen Hancock College, but I probably won't be doing that for a while. So maybe we'll do an extended food and wine pairing thing on the 24th, but I do guarantee to you, Rick, I will do food and wine pairing for you guys on the 24th on Friday. All right. Will Costello is Peter Rogers' Psalm instructor. Awesome. Ede, where do I get the repours? Repour.com. You can talk to me. I'll give you a handful too. Tom gives me a case every couple of months, so I take them and use them and then talk to him about that. All right, talked about that. Isn't that cool? Victoria agrees. It is a really kind of cool thing. I mean, especially for folks that don't, maybe one person in the household drinks wine and maybe they drink a bottle of wine over 3 or 4 nights. It's a perfect way to get at least 2 or 3 bottles to be really beautiful and fresh during that period. And Tim, thank you for coming in. Matthew, thanks so much. Michelle and Zach and Eric. Gosh, I got people from my high school, people from my junior high school. And Andrew and Julie and Steven and Every and Kevin and Brett and Tony and Janice. Great wine name. And I saw Greg. Paul and Tracy and Victoria and Peter. Peter, good to see you. Victoria. David Teague. Chef Teague in the house. Chef Teague and I created Flotterscotch. Yes, we made butterscotch with foie gras, and it's good. Needs a lot of salt. And Phil, thank you for coming back. Betty, it's always good to see you. Cool, I think I've got, and Bill and Barbara, and Jane and Nancy, and Cheryl and Mark. Thank you guys all for coming out. I'm sorry the Wes Hagen on Facebook thing petered out. That's why we're all, over at the J.Wilkes one, it works a little bit better. So thank you all for coming out. This was a little bit longer than normal. I hope you learned something. I hope you had fun hanging out. And I'm sure I will anger the poor woman at our company that has to extract the information from these videos. But I think we had some good content tonight. We had some good conversation. We had a good drink. And I'm really, really happy I got to hang out with all you wonderful people. And Joseph, welcome back. And Tommy, it looks like you just came back too. I will close the live portion. And remember, this is available to watch, basically as hopefully a permanent link up on the Facebook. And we're breaking these into YouTube channels, J.Wilkes channel, as well as Miller Family Wine channel. And close by saying, invite more people to come out and enjoy a day drinking experience with myself and all of you fine people. And again, find the people in your neighborhood, in your life, in your family that need support, that need love, that need some wine, that need just compassion, that need a kind word. Make sure everyone you see as they walk by your house and they look and wave to them, smile, and make sure we know we have community, we have a future, we have love, we have wine, we have food, and we have a future together where we will be at table, lighting a candle, looking across the room, and understanding that every breath on this planet is an absolute miracle. And I say that with great respect for the science that has made me look into the skies and the stars at night and recognize that I am more powerful than a star, because a star cannot have a glass of wine, a star cannot love, a star cannot laugh. And I'll finish today with saying, love the one you're with, love the wine you're with, and make sure to throw some love and compassion into the world, because we all need it right now. Have an awesome night. Drink some wine, enjoy yourself. You may have heard my black lab just yawn, so that's clear indication I've gone too long. So have a great night, and I will see you guys all here tomorrow. And if you want to come out tomorrow, we're just kind of having an open hangout. We may try Zoom again so everyone can talk, because I would love to hear other people's voices, better for my voice and my lung health. And I hope all of you had a fabulous time. All right, have a great night. Day drinking with Wes Hagen. Cheers, everybody.